My name is Benneth Esiana. I am the second year of my PhD at the University of Stirling. And my thesis title is Investigating the Carbon Store of Anthropogenically Deepened Urban Aerosols in Scotland in relation to carbon budgeting and terrestrial cycle. So the environmental aspect of my research is basically trying to understand or trying to quantify the carbon content in historical urban soils. So we want to understand how much carbon is present in the soil. We also want to understand what composition, that is, we want to be able to characterize the carbon into refractory carbon as well as easily metabolized carbon. And we also want to be able to understand the relative stability of the carbon. So how long have they been in the soil for, and what mechanisms are responsible for the stabilization of the carbon. And the historical aspect, we want to study soil profile in urban aerosols in order for us to understand or to be able to deduce or to tell a story from the information that we obtain from detailed studies of soil profile, so that we can be able to understand patterns of occupation, past occupation, settlements, and activities over space and time. It is important to store carbon because, as we know, carbon is a major greenhouse gas, and we want to be able to keep them wherever they are so that they are not exposed to the atmosphere, because the more carbon you have amongst other anthropogenic gases, the more warming you get. So we want to be able to reduce the transfer of carbon from the soil to the atmosphere, and this is where my research comes in. Part of my motivation is actually the practical aspect of my research, to know that I will be able to apply the outcome of my research into making policy changes. So, for example, at the end of my research, I hope to be able to provide data on management of historical landscapes. As of now, we don't know how much carbon they contain or what proportion of carbon they contain. So by the end of my research, I hope to be able to elucidate on that. So to be able to say, right, historical landscapes contain so amount of carbon. As a result, we need to either prioritize them or we need to be able to develop management strategies conducive to particular soils or soil types in order to reduce the carbon mineralization from soil to the atmosphere. And the historical aspect, we want to be able to use soil as an alternative records. So we do have historical records or ethnographic records which tells history of past events. So we want to be able to combine those ethnographic data with soil records. So we want to know at what level soil records can tell about the history of a particular place. So we have and also be able to compare that data with historical records. How accurate is soil records when combined compared to historical data? And perhaps we might be able to one day use this soil records to be able to tell about history of of landscapes, past landscapes or historical landscapes where historical records are not available. I think most research is often accompanied with policy changes. And it is very important for the public to understand the source or the reason for why such changes have been adopted, because that aids implementation and also it helps to increase interest in what has been proposed. My goal is to be able to continue to work in science as a soil scientist and to be able to provide policy information on the management of historical landscapes and also future scheduling of monuments, as well as to be able to contribute towards the budgeting of terrestrial carbon stock and current climate models.